Hi, this is Suey778 coming at you, and today I've got yet another multimeter review. And this particular multimeter is a very low cost, super tight budget multimeter. And this will be the first in a series of such multimeters, and we will call it the super tight budget multimeters or something like that. Anyway, today on the table we have a PeakMeter PM8233D+. This is available at Amazon.com for $10.93. It is sold by the Camway store on Amazon, but is not branded as a Camway. So let's go ahead and do the unboxing here. As you can see, we get a regular white box. It says PeakMeter on it. On the back, I did want to show you before I open this up, there are 6 different trims of this multimeter there. And of the 6 trims in this 8233 series, or 8233D I should say, this is the only one that does capacitance. There are some variations between them, but you've got basically a PM8233A, B, C, D, E, and then D+. And this is the only one that does capacitance. Anyway, so let's go ahead and do the unboxing here. So you just get a plain Jane box. And it does show that it is the 8233D Plus. Okay, let's get her open. And first you get a manual. I'll show you some specs real quick here. It's one of those fold-up manuals. Okay, there are some specs for you right there on this page. Hopefully you can see that. And then we got some more specs right here. Okay, there you go. Also, we get a battery, 9-volt battery, set of leads. Looks like very basic, plain Jane, generic leads. We'll take a look at these later. And last but not least, we get the meter. And there she is in all her glory. Let's go ahead and get a setup and we'll do an overview. Okay, and before we get to the overview here, I just wanted to mention that this is similar to the Cronova PM8233D. The difference being is the Cronova costs more than twice as much and does not do capacitance, as this is the D+ version and sold by a different store. Anyway, let's go from top to bottom here. We've got a LCD backlit display, 2000 counts and auto range. You've got a function button here, range button, maximum button, and a hold/backlight button. Let's go to the controls. Let's go ahead and turn this on. And let's get that backlight button going. There we go. NCV, DC voltage, and just to show that the hold works, there you go. Okay, continuing on. AC voltage. This is going to be your continuity and diodes, resistance, capacitance. Actually has a frequency function as well. And then of course you have your microamps, milliamps, and amps. And last but not least, I guess, you got an off switch on this side as well. So now it's off. Continuing down below, we have the 10 amp jack. This is rated for 250 volts maximum. Your common jack, and then your jack for everything else, including milliamps, microamps, resistance, voltage, capacitance, etc., etc., etc. This is rated for 600 volts max, I'm guessing for measuring AC voltage. The fuse on this is 250 milliamps. Rated at 250 volts maximum. I would guess overall this is a category 2 multimeter. either 250 volts, maybe 600 volts, probably more like 250 volts, even though they tout it as a category 3, but I can tell you most definitely this is not a category 3 multimeter. Okay, now we're going to show you the battery compartment here. So let me get this unscrewed. As you can see, we got a single screw here. And basically this whole piece lifts off just like that. And as you can see, it is a brass insert, and I had already put a battery in this. Okay, so that's how you get to the battery compartment. As you can see, this does install upside down. Let me see if I can get this condom off. Okay, well, it's not as hard as I thought it was going to be. Can we get off of there? So, condom comes off. I had to take the battery out too while I was at it. Okay, got that out. So let's get that out of the way. Alright, and it looks like we get 4 more screws that we need to take out on the corners. So let's go ahead and try to get these out. That didn't get enough. Come on, get out of there. There we go. Okay, let's pull this apart and see what we get. This shouldn't be too hard. Yeah, I've already got it started. There we go. Okay, it is connected, and this is what we have inside. Let me put it the other way here. Okay, let me get zoomed in on that. Okay, so here's what we got inside. What I'm seeing here is, well, got the split jacks, very, very small ceramic fuses. So yeah, I would have to say this is definitely, they're probably rated for 250 volts. Yep, 250 volts on both of this. So that whole thing about category 3, 600, yeah, total bogus. We have a single PTC here, a couple of resistors in series here. Have a really good size current shunt. That's actually fairly good size. A couple diodes here, a couple more resistors here. Got some more diodes up top here in this row, another row of resistors here. This is the processor right here. Of course, it's blobbed out. Looks like the NCV antenna is right here. Yep, we've got a wire antenna. Actually, let me zoom out so you can see that. This little wire right here is a wire antenna. Okay, not sure where the here's a, oh, it's got calibration points right here. Okay, it looks like this may be the controller for the LCD right here. This is the main processor, obviously. Okay, this is the 8233D Plus version 2.0, and it has a date of, it's looks like 9/18 of 2019, I believe. And this particular manufacture date, if that's what that is right here, then we're looking at the 40th week of 2019. Pretty straightforward. This is hardwired from the battery in here. That's actually, looks like it's, yep, soldered in. Soldering on this looks pretty clean. I'm not seeing anything messy. This is a very, very simple board. Looks like the speaker is right here. I would guess that's what that is. LCD, of course, is right here. So there you go. We'll do one more close-up of it. Not a bad looking board, pretty clean looking. Okay, and let's go ahead and de-virginize our PM8233D Plus. And there you go. Beautiful. Let's turn it on and put it on the backlight and let's see how beautiful she looks. Okay, there you go. Now we're going to get on to some tests. Okay, here we go with the AD584M DC voltage test. I'm going to start off at 2.5 volts. Got the PM8233D Plus with the UT8804N to monitor. So let's go ahead and get started. This is going to be 2.5 volts. And as usual, the UNI-T is showing what it normally gets on this, and we are getting 2.50 volts on the peak meter, so that's pretty good. Let's go to 5 volts. Okay, 5.055 as per usual on the UNI-T, and 5.01 on the peak meter, and that is what it should be reading in this scale. So pretty good. Let's go to 7.5. Okay, getting to 7.502 on the UNI-T and 7.51 on the peak meter. A little bit high there, but still not too far off. Still doing good. Okay, let's go to 10 volts. And getting 10.007 on the UNI-T and 10.02 on the peak meter. Still a little bit high, but that's still really good. Okay. Let's go ahead and try the power supply for 32 volts. I'll patch it in over here. Give me just a second. Alright, here is 32 volts off the power supply. And we're getting 32.012 on the UNI-T and 32.0 on the peak meter, which is what it should be reading. So all in all, pretty good. Okay, now we're going to do a quick AC outlet test on my power strip here. So let's get this powered up. Only going to be reading this from the, now let's switch it over to AC voltage. All right, there we go. We're only going to be reading this off of the peak meter. So here goes nothing. And today's flavor is 122 volts even. So I would say that's working. Let's go ahead and switch it over to the hertz. Let's see if we get a reading on that, and we are. And it's reading at 0.06 kilohertz, so I would say that's working. Okay, here we go with the DMMCheckPlus reference standard check. We're going to start off with DC voltage here. So on this one, we're supposed to be getting 5.0000 volts even. And on this meter, it is showing 5.00 volts. Looks good. All right, let's switch over to AC. And on this one, we should be getting 4.999. And it is reading it as 4.97. Okay, let's see what the frequency is. It should be 100 hertz, 100.009228 hertz to be exact. It is reading it as 0.10 kilohertz. So that's as good as it's going to get with this one. But yeah, it's not giving us any wacky readings. All right, let's go ahead and switch over to current. Start off with DC again. So let me get that switched over. I'm going to put it in milliamp range. Okay, there we go. All right, and for this one, we should be getting 0.9996 milliamps. Obviously, we're not going to get that resolution with this meter. Let's see what it does. And it is reading it as 0.99 milliamps, wavering up to 1 milliamp here and there. Let's try to put it down microamp range and let's see what we get. And it is reading it as 999 microamps, so not too shabby. All right, let's switch over to AC. And we should be getting 1.001 milliamps. And this is reading it as, okay, we're still in the microamp range, so it's reading it as 999.2 microamps. Let's see, if we put this up in milliamp range, we're getting 0.98 milliamps. So I would say that it's probably, yeah, the microamp reading is probably the more accurate reading at 992 microamps. Okay, still though, not too bad for an $11 meter. I'll take that. All right. And next up on this is going to be the resistance standard. Okay, first up is a 100 ohm resistor. We should get this in at 99.99 ohms. And it is reading it as 100 ohms even. Okay, pretty good. All right, next up is a 1K. And this should be reading it as 1.0005 kilo ohms. Let's see how close we get here. And it is reading it as 1 kilo ohm. So not too far away from it. Probably it's kind of wavering between 999 ohms and 1 kilo ohm. But it looks like it's settling on 999. Still pretty good. All right, let's go ahead and go to 10K. And this should read as 10.0044 kilo ohms. And we are getting 10.00 kilo ohms. And that's actually what it should be reading on this scale. Okay, so that's pretty good. And then last but not least, we're going to do 100K here. And it is reading it as, well, it should be 100.064 kilo ohms, and this is reading it as 100 kilo ohms even. So all in all, considering what this is and what its resolution is, I think it did pretty well on the DMMCheckPlus. Okay, so let's go ahead and move on to the other test here. Okay, here we go with the continuity test. The stock leads are up first, so let's give it a shot. Not bad. The resistance is all over the place. Good latch though. And fairly fast. So I would say not too shabby on this. Although as we see, sometimes it's losing contact, but for the most part it's pretty good. But yeah, those ohm readings are all over the place. It looks like we can dump it down to about 1.6 ohms, and that's about it. So anyway, not too shabby on that. Okay, and now we're going to try the probe masters on the continuity test. Getting it down to 0 ohms on the latch, so that's nice. Yeah, these are just fine. But even with the stock leads, they're pretty good. Okay, I've got my custom test board out, and we're going to go ahead and try the diodes and the LEDs. And first we're going to do the LEDs. So here we go. Get red with a reading. Okay. Yellow with a reading. All right. Green with a reading. Okay. Blue, nothing. And white, nothing. All right, we'll do the RGB anyway. There's red, does get a reading. Green, very dim, no reading. And blue, nothing. So it's okay on diodes. You'll get a couple of drop voltage readings if you're working with red or yellow. Otherwise, it'll light the greens, but that's about it. Okay, let's go ahead and go on to the diodes. Here is the rectifier. .507, okay. Fast recovery. .477, all right. Schottky. .177. Likes those sevens, doesn't it? Switching. .565 and germanium .257. Okay, not too bad. A little bit low on the diodes, but really not that bad. Okay, I got my resistance substitution box out. We're going to try a few more values here. So let's get our leads in there. Okay, and as you can see, we're getting the customary onboard resistance. So we're going to try 1 ohm here. Probably should read it as about 1.4. There's no rel feature on this, so there's really nothing we can do about that. Okay, and we'll try 10. Same deal there. All right, let's go up to 1 meg. This will eliminate that problem. Okay, and that's getting it as 1.01 mega ohms, so not too bad. All right, let's try 2. And we're getting 1.99 mega ohms. That's just about right for this scale. Okay, let's try 4 mega ohms. And we're getting about 3.98, so not bad. Here's 10 mega ohms. And we're getting it in as 9.98. Not too shabby. 9.99, all right. And let's go for the full 11 here. And it's going to settle on, let's see, we're at 10.99. Looks like that's where it's going to stop. So overall, resistance on this thing, really not bad at all. Okay, here we go with some capacitance readings with the capacitance substitution box. I've got it set to 100 picofarads right now, and it is reading it as 0.12 nanofarads, so that's not too far off. Let's go to 150. That's high. 220. A little bit high. 330. Yeah, it's kind of high. 470. Yeah, that's high. 680. Or I'm sorry, 560. Yeah, that's high. 680. Yeah, high. 820. That's about right where it should be. Okay, so 800 picofarads seems to be the magic number. Well, we'll see here. 1 nanofarad. Yeah, that's pretty close. 1.5. Yeah, that's reasonable. 2.2. Yeah, pretty good. 3.3. This should be low, and it is. All right, let's go to the higher side of this box. 4.7. Slightly high, not bad. 5.6, a little bit low as expected. 6.8, low as expected. 8.2, low as expected. Okay, here's 10 nanofarads. Pretty close. 15 nanofarads, high as expected. 22 nanofarads, almost right on. All right. 33, this should be high, and it is. 47 should be high, and it is. 56 should be low, and it is. 68 should be low, and it is. And 100 nanofarads on this box are right around 102, 102.5, and we are getting 103.3. So not too shabby. All right, let's measure. Let's get this box out of the way here, and let's measure some bigger capacitors. A few of them. Okay, here we go. Alright, I'm not going to try doing the 22 puff because I know that this meter is not going to be able to read that. But we'll go ahead and test a little 85 nanofarad down here on this board. And we are getting 84.2 nanofarads, not too bad. Okay, here's 1 microfarad. That's just about right on. Alright, let's try 10 nanofarads. Now we're getting 10.45. That's pretty good. Alright, let's try the 47. This should be more like 44. It's getting slower as we're getting higher in the value. Okay, yep, that's good. Alright, let's try 100. Getting slower still, but 100.5. Yep, that's good reading. Okay, here is 1,000 microfarads. It should be more in a range of 930 to 950, somewhere in there. It's trying to. Looks like it's trying to range on it. Alright, it's up in the millifarads. Okay. 9.933 millifarad, so not too bad. All right, last but not least, okay, here we go. I'm going to try 2.2 millifarads here. I don't think this is going to make it, but I think we're going to get an over limit, but let's see what happens. Okay, we're up in the millifarad range. Oh, we did get a reading. How about that? 2.07 millifarads, which is not too far off from the actual reading. Okay, we're not going to try the big one because I know that's not going to work. Okay, now we're going to go ahead and try to measure the output voltage for the diodes on this. So we're going to let Mr. Fluke have the honors this time. Let's get that in regular volts or DC volts. All right, let's give it a shot. Let's see what happens here. I'm not expecting this to be much. And we're getting 21.44 volts, 21.45. Okay, low as I figured. Okay, now we're going to do the frequency test. Now the manual wasn't very helpful in talking about its range, but what I was able to decipher, I think, is that it has a range from 10 Hertz up to 20 kilohertz. So we're going to start it off at 10. I did try doing below 10 Hertz and it wouldn't pick up anything. So we're going to try it with an amplitude of 1 volt starting at a frequency of 10 Hertz and basically doing our customary sine wave. So let's go ahead and turn this on. And as you can see, it is reading as 0.01 kilohertz, which is basically 10 Hertz. All right, let's move that up to 100 Hertz. Let's see what we get. And it is reading it as 0.1 kilohertz, so good there. All right, I'm going to quit turning that backlight on. Okay, here is 1K. Now we'll turn it on one more time. Okay, it looks like it is reading it at 0.99 kilohertz. All right, let's go ahead and try 5K. Reading that fine, slightly off, but that's okay. I'll take that. Here is 10K, reads that okay. All right, let's go ahead and go to 20K. And we are getting 19.99 kilohertz. All right, let's go ahead and push her up to 25. And we go over limit. Okay, let's see if we can bring it back down. Doesn't look like it. Okay, so it looks like the maximum on this puppy is, yeah, that's basically as far as you can go. So yeah, basically 10 Hertz to 20K does seem to work within its spec, however. Okay, and here we go with the NCV test. Let's see how this does. I'm going to turn my power outlet on over here and let's see what we get. I would say this is actually fairly sensitive. Let's try the LED light overhead. Oh yeah, we're good. So I would say, yeah, pretty sensitive NCV. Okay, and now on to the pros and the cons. First, the pros. Surprisingly good accuracy on most measurements. I was very pleasantly surprised with this thing, no doubt about it. I was not expecting this to perform as well as it did. It's easy to use, and the auto mode works quite well, albeit slow in certain areas. It's got a legible, well-written manual. I'm not a big fan of the fold-out style, but it is a big enough font that you can actually read it, so that's cool. It has a very clean display with very few washout angles that I was able to find. Again, it's compact. This would be definitely usable as a mobile meter. And I also think this thing really does make the most out of its limited resolution. I think more so than most 2000 count meters, that at least the ones that I've played with. It's got a very sensitive NCV antenna. And these leads, they're not bad. They're actually quite usable right out of the box. I didn't even bother cleaning them, and they still worked pretty well in continuity. So I would say these are pretty good. And of course, it's very affordable. $10.93 at the Camway store on Amazon. Well, kind of hard to beat that. Okay, but of course there are some negatives. The first con being the included leads as far as the physical, like the PVC casing and all that, it's not that great. You're probably going to have to lay it out to get it stretched out because they do tend to want to form back into their folded, state. But they do work well. On the capacitance readings, as you saw in the footage, it can be quite slow on upper readings, and you do have a little bit of a limited upper range, basically topping out at about 2,000 microfarads. The diode readings tend to be a little bit low, but I've seen worse, but I've certainly seen better. You know, the diodes could have been better, but again, given the cost, I can live with that. Output voltage is only 2.15 volts. That's a little bit of a shame, but again, we're talking about a cheap multimeter. The fact that it can light up red, yellow, and green at all and get drop voltage readings on red and yellow is good in and of itself. It only displays frequency in kilohertz. That is one thing about the frequency I did not like, is you basically get a fixed kilohertz range and that's it. It's not going to go to hertz. It's not going to go to megahertz. You're basically stuck with kilohertz. And the backlit display only stays on for 20 seconds. Just to demonstrate. So that's kind of a pain. If you need this and always backlit, you're not going to like this meter. But even without the backlighting, it is actually pretty good. Okay, now to the conclusion. The PeakMeter PM8233D Plus is a decent meter with surprising accuracy on readings and has all the basic measurement types needed in an electronics bench meter at a very low price point. This meter would be suitable for use on an electronics bench and or in the role of a household DMM. It is not a good choice for measuring high voltage as it has very minimal protection. So no Category 3 and Category 4 environment, folks. Not going to happen. Although it is a little slow with some of its readings, the accuracy makes up for this and would be a really good choice for someone on a very tight budget who has a need for a decent all-around meter. And with that, I give this a big thumbs up. For such a cheap meter, I was very pleasantly surprised with this thing, and I definitely recommend. So that's going to do it for now. Thanks for watching. Tell your friends. I won't ask you to subscribe. I'll leave that choice up to you. But in any case, thanks for watching, and we'll see you when we see you.